Thanks for tuning in to the Big Nose Podcast, a platform for me to nose into other people's business. On this podcast, I strive to share with you stories from a range of different people over various different topics. So, before my nose starts twitching any further, let's get down to business. Hello and welcome to the Big Nose Podcast. This week on the show, I am delighted to be joined by Seany B. You may know him from Cut and Sew. You may know him from attending festivals. Brilliant entrepreneur. Seany, it's great to have you on the show today.
Thanks, Pierce. I appreciate it. Yeah, this is an exciting evening for me.
Yeah, it's February. Thank God, January's behind us. Hopefully, brighter days are ahead of us. One of the things about this podcast, it's a platform to get to know people and get to know their story and what they've done and where they are in themselves in life. But how did they get there? And that's always something that I'm always interested in. So maybe going back to yourself, a younger Seany B. What type of youngster were you growing up at home in school?
I would like to think I was the cool kid, but in actual fact I wasn't. I was very in the middle in school. I got on with the kind of the rockers and the outcasts, that were into what I thought was like heavy metal and death metal, but it was actually Metallica, which I quite like now.
Yeah.
So they're probably the cooler kids and the football-y jock types, who are all not my type of people at the minute. So I was in the middle, a bit of a joker, didn't like authority from male figures, if I remember correctly, when my principal said I should probably pursue LCA to keep me back a year, to do transition year to maybe mature. So I was a little bit immature and a bit jokey. I wasn't a bad kid, really. I mean, I got into a little bit of mischief, but nothing too bad,
And did you enjoy school? Was it a place that you enjoyed going to? Did you enjoy getting to see your mates? Or was it a case of you'd rather be out doing your own thing?
Initially, in school, I did enjoy it. I kind of liked it or thought of it more like it was kind of quite social to me. I think you learned a lot. All I learned really in school was social skills, and it was a mixed school, and I moved around a lot as a kid. I lived in England for a few years and moved back, and I was in an Irish school, and then I moved back to English. And I had a bit of an exciting childhood in the sense of, I got to see London. I remember distinctly being in London for when Princess Diana died. So I was 10 of age in 97, and it was just the maddest cultural difference. There wasn't many different ethnicities in Dublin, if any, where I grew up in Blackrock and Dunleary. So I was introduced to a lot of different cultures in London, and I don't know, it gave me a kind of, I think it opened me up to maybe love travelling, which is what I do with different cultures.
Yeah.
So I went to school, and it was just this real one narrow track of education, and you go home and you do work, and then the weekends you can play sports and go back to school. And I didn't like it after getting a taste of London, and Dublin is a very small place when you moved to London, But yeah, no, I didn't particularly love school, but I didn't hate it either, Pierce.
So how did you go then? Where did the interest in the art of barbering, dealing with people's hair, how did that come about from that? Was it something that you had seen maybe in London, or was it in the family, or how did you get exposed to that art?
The dream initially was to play for Man United.
Oh, like us all.
In my head, I thought I had trials for Chelsea. My mum was like, if you say something enough, you'll believe it. And I actually, in fact, only today when I was on the phone to my mum, did I actually have trials for Chelsea? Son, if I had thought you were going to be a Premier League footballer, I would have done anything to get you there. The reality was, no, I wasn't scouted. And what got me to cutting hair was I went to school, and I went to third year, and that's when a little bit of trouble happened. I had a lot of male teachers, and my mum and dad are separate, both brilliant parents, but I grew up with weekends with my dad, Monday to Friday with my mum.
Yeah.
So I think my dad was always real nice to me, and I didn't really have an authoritative male figure in my life. So when my teachers were like, "Where's your homework?" or "Sean, do this or do that," all of the guys I acted up to. And I was like, I want to maybe do an apprenticeship as a carpenter, because the football dream was over. Didn't want to become a hairdresser or barber, but I had an uncle or a cousin who was a carpenter, and he was kind of cool, and he had a nice car, and I thought he was kind of a cool guy. So initially I went to get an apprenticeship, but my mum said I can leave school at 16 because I was going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
Some ways, and academically it wasn't for me. I didn't want to go to college. What I wanted to do didn't need third level education, so I got an apprenticeship as a carpenter for 2 years, and lo and behold, he didn't register me, so I was, technically slave labor.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a mad term, but I was cheap labor that wasn't registered. And then recession hit, so it was a kind of post-Celtic tigery, and construction was really bad. So my mum was like, well, what are you going to do now? I was about 18, 19 at the time, and I had a friend who was a hairdresser, an apprentice hairdresser in a salon called Tony and Guy. I had gone there once or twice because I'm a bit particular with my hair, and I loved the experience. High-end, head massage, GQ and Esquire magazines, good-looking ladies, cool tunes on, and I never thought I'd be into it, but I loved going, and it was like 29, was it euros or pounds then, whatever, it was expensive, because I was just regular barbers. And based on, I think, me going in, they're like, Sean, he's a good lad, what do you do? You're not a carpenter anymore. I was like, no, I lost my job. They offered me a job, and it was a weird time. I was like, how can I go from being on a filthy building site to like a high-end hair salon? And that was my introduction to hairdressing. I did a hairdressing apprenticeship first for 4 years, which was the leading brand in Ireland at the time. Tony and Guy are one of the leading brands, and that was the intro to it.
And how did you find that whole experience of going from, okay, you left school, you went and did the apprenticeship, you kind of maybe at that stage thought, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to be working building sites, doing carpentry, and then all of a sudden going kind of back into learning again, the learning experience kind of in a more structured setup, I imagine, with, what you have to learn through Tony and Guy and their standards.
So I think this is where life comes in, and like I didn't dream of cutting hair, I didn't dream of doing granny blow dries and blue rinses. And what I learned in Tony and Guy was people skills, and I enjoyed making people feel good. And it's again from my school days, all the social skills I learned from in the salon was in Blackrock, so it was quite high end. I mean, actually, I had Baz from Baz Ashwami. I remember I shampooed his hair. I was like, oh, that's the guy from the telly. And Dave I was like, that's Dave Fanning, 2FM, and John Power, who's a DJ. And I was like, this is cool. And Rosanna Davidson. So I thought it was very cool. And I remember I was able to mingle with these, even if I was just shampooing their hair or blow or getting them tea or coffee. And I loved the kind of social aspect because, at about 18, 19, you're going out 4 nights a week anyway. But it was so buzzy, and I was like, the music was on, and it was such an amazing time because apparently hair and makeup is quite recession proof. I do believe that it is, because the price of a haircut, women or men to wear makeup nowadays, a lot of people have to leave the house looking and feeling good no matter how doomy and gloom it is. So I kind of felt safe in that, and I was like, I went through the motions. I was like, what's the end goal here? I didn't think I'm going to have a salon or whatever. And then I started to gain more male clientele, and I have 5 younger brothers, so they had a couple of years of getting bad haircuts.
I was going to say, there's plenty of options there in terms of testing your trade.
Yeah, and I mean, so I went through the motions, left there, going out with various girls over the years, and I think they didn't really like that I was a male hairdresser because you're surrounded with good-looking women, you're a bit of I think I've a bit of the swag, the chin. How are you, Mary? How's John at home? And the weekend, all that. And I then was like, it's time to move, when, I don't know, I got to a certain age, but what do I do? So I moved on to a salon that I was considered more senior than I was, spread the wings. Yeah. And then I just kind of had a lot of guys, because the only salon, or the only barber shop that I knew of that was cool was a place called the Waldorf, which was world renowned on Westmoreland Street downstairs. Yeah. This is around the time, I think, of Mad Men had been on, and a lot of 1940s and 50s post World War II and World War II things, so that kind of sleek side parting, skin fades, dapper haircuts were in, and I didn't know anywhere else to go. Yeah. Going there, and I was like, this is really cool. It was 30 euro at the time, or 32, and I was like, it's the most expensive haircut I've had, but it was deadly, and you're very cool Joe Burger-esque people. I like to think the hipsters. Yeah. It's mental how many creatives have come from working in all of the Joe Burgers, but I then kind of was hanging around with these guys, and they were like, you should rent a space, do you know anyone in town? Then I knew a guy that had a record shop, and then I was like, Is this a random question, but would I be able to do a pop-up shop on Saturdays? You know, I'm working in a hair salon Monday to Friday, but I'd like to give it a go.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, then Cut and Sew, before it was Cut and Sew, was me just doing mixers in a city centre space or a basement for a record shop. And then that was the beginning of it, you know. I got a taste of kind of having a space and being part of town.
So kind of the entrepreneur in you had decided to come out and blossom, and it was something that, you know, you enjoyed then. Okay, you're your own boss at that stage. How did you transfer that into something that went on to be Cut and Sew? How did you know that, okay, this is for me, I want to be my own boss? You know, it's one thing turning, you know, cutting people's hair and a job into a profession and a business. When did you realise that was something that you knew you could do?
I didn't solely give up the hairdressing. I actually, when I think back of how hard I had to, so I DJ'd part-time a lot of the time.
Yeah.
5 days a week. I DJ'd in Joe Burgers twice a week on a Thursday and a Saturday for €70 cash each evening, and then on the Saturday night I'd usually go out and you'd have a bit of a wild one, and then I was back in work Monday to Friday, and then Saturday was my pop shop. So I worked like a maniac at the time. I was about 26, which we all know, and well, now that I'm 34, it feels like years ago. But not only do I not go out anymore, regardless of COVID, a few quiet points on a Sunday is as mad as it gets. So I got a taste for this kind of, oh, you have a business. And a lovely lady, Rosemary McCabe, who used to write for the Irish Times, and she was an editor for Creative Head magazine. All of these couple of people I met through hairdressing were like, where's Seany gone? He was a legend. Oh, he's doing his own thing. And I got one or two tiny bits of mentions and bits of press.
Yeah. And
then the Saturday was up and down for a few months, but the Saturday got so busy in advance that the guys were actually in the record shop like, man, there was a lot of people here during the week looking for cuts. I think you could pursue this full time.
Yeah.
And that the transition of, I'm going to leave the hairdressing, but I still did some ladies' haircuts. And then I went in and I literally posted it today on Instagram, a picture of the initial setup. I robbed a mirror from my mum's hallway and a spare kitchen chair, put that into the basement of the record shop in Temple Bar, and painted the area and, you know, jazzed it up with like 2 or 3 magazines. And it was so basic and primal, but it looked, in back then people thought it was very Berlin-esque. I've never, because it was all like old boxes of records, there was turntables, the guys from the record shop would leave their bikes there, the tunes are pumping upstairs. So in actual fact it was quite hip and trendy. And then I had to, obviously I was like, okay, well, I need to officially register my business because we all have to pay tax. So the first 6 months were a bit all over the shop, like, is this going to work? What days do I work? No social media, it's word of mouth, phone number, Facebook. And then I kind of think Instagram, I'd love to know in my own head how I found out about Instagram, because we were, if not one of the first to do it, because Waldorf never did it for years. The only other shops then, I think, that were around, which are quite cool shops, was Bedford Stye, The Merchant, and Sam's Barbers. But they were old school. So when we opened up, we got a lot of grief because we were taking pictures and doing social media. And it's a bit weird. I got a lot of hate and negativity from all of the owners of the above. And that kind of fueled me to go bananas. Videos, it's so funny, we've kind of plateaued as such now because it's the done thing. Everyone has an Instagram.
Yeah.
Got like thousands of followers. I think like 11,000 Facebook people, like in like 6 months, and then a couple of thousand on Instagram. And the haircuts pairs were not up to scratch to now standards. But so I still have all the old pictures if you scroll down.
Yeah.
But cool, people were like, oh wow, he's asking me, can I take a picture of my haircut? Nobody did that ever for me. So I just seen that, and then it's very powerful when you're doing the haircut, somebody gives you the money and you pay yourself a wage. So there was no going back when I got that feeling. And even if it was 400 quid a week and then you pay your bit of tax and your little bit of rent, I was just like buzzing. I remember, like, you know, floating around town, and then Cut and Sew obviously was the name that stuck with me, and I don't know, it just really buzzed. I wasn't an entrepreneur then, and I even don't really like saying it too much. Yeah. Even if I do open or have a few businesses, it's more of I don't know, it was just the not working for somebody is so self-rewarding, and I like to motivate myself.
Yeah.
You know, it comes back to the school of not liking someone
telling you what to do. Yeah. So, and it's a case of owning everything that happens. When you started off, it's organic, it's new, you're learning as you're going. You know, you're putting in the long weeks, the long days, the long hours. You know, as you said, you were working Monday to Friday. You're doing your DJing, then you're doing it on your own, a few nixtures. But then it's grand doing it on your own and doing a few nixtures, then generating it into a business. I'm sure there's a load of learning curves you came across. You know, it's one thing being the only barber in the shop, but then you have to look at recruiting and going down that line and getting the right people in and trying to generate business and word of mouth. Like, it must be a minefield for someone on their own and quite daunting at times.
Yeah, I mean, it's to the point of now with coming up to a year of COVID and being shut. It's again, what can you do to survive and what are you going to do? And I have down days like everybody else. A friend of mine, Jamie White, is an actual entrepreneur, and he set up a couple of speaking events in Dublin. He and myself went up for a walk last year around March. I'm like, this is crazy, what are we doing? He was running huge events. He got Jordan Belfort over to, what's the name in the RDS, and he does the Start Summit and low events, fresh resolutions as well. He spoke to me, like, Seany, you're a legend, like you like Mr. Barber shop in Dublin, like, why don't you do business consulting? I goes, what? I was like, that I'd be laughed. So I said, I had a chat with him. He charges what I think is a very good rate business coaching, but as a friend he gave me free advice, so he's never paying for a haircut again, which is probably worth way more than what he was like, do online coaching or consulting. And I was like, you know, what have I got to lose? So I've set up online coaching now, and it's given me a different platform to work from, you know. But it's
great to see that you adapt to the changing environment, which you obviously learned from setting up your own store, and obviously going from one then to 2, 3, you know, and then onwards, and then obviously you've opened up, or you're in the process of opening up a new one and in the south of Dublin. So it's something that you obviously enjoy doing as well.
The good thing for me is when I went into this, I didn't have anything to lose, apart from my mum's kitchen chair and mirror.
Of course.
So the risk wasn't there, and I worked super hard, and the success, literally within, you know, a year, we went up and down. It went from 1 chairs in the record shop to 6. Like it went crazy in a year, and it was so busy because no one did online bookings apart from us. And then I think Sam's or the Butcher Barbers.
Yeah.
Butcher Barbers, deserves a name drop, because Ennis had a really cool shop in between. I think it was Clarendon Street and Grafton Street. That laneway, yeah. The laneway, and I was like, whoa, this is cool, and he's a cool lad, you know. You got a couple of like Jamie Heaslip and the rugby lads in, and I don't know, your TV presenters. I don't think he did online bookings. It was all phone call, notepad and pen. So we were, if I'm correct in this, we were one of the first to do the online bookings. In a barber's, we were turning away the same amount of people that were coming in. So I was like, let's do another shop, which is the now Wellington Keys shop, which is the biggest one we have. Again, it's a trip down memory lane. The rent wasn't expensive in the basement unit, but then to go to the main, you know, one of the, I suppose, our main shop now, our HQ on Wellington Quay, the rent is astronomical and rates are crazy. But I knew by doing, obviously, how well the business was and learning as I went, it would do well. You know, It was so tunnel. I was at my sharpest then that turned in, that snowball, that got really busy, and then a couple more people started to open up and do well, and then people started to leave you, and I found out all that's what comes with having clients coming and going and your own staff being competitors. But I think the attitude we have is I do want the best for everybody, and I would want them to go on and open their own shops. But it's I don't know, it's now led to 3 shops. Then I tried another shop which was called Blind Eye with a business partner, which didn't work. And you learn, you know, I learn more than I lose in every situation, and it's kind of like I have the John Cavan book there, Win or Learn, and whatever. It is just my, what would you call it? My CV in business is the mistakes I've made.
Yeah.
But I've learned so much from them that now, as a business coach in my industry, I've a lot of value to offer to people that want to avoid making them. It's coming back, and I think it's helping me. And I'm no Tony Robbins, I don't get me or Gary.
But I think, as you said earlier, like life experience, you can't really teach that. As you get older and you do make the mistakes as you go down in business or in life, you do kind of understand that, if you keep making the same mistakes, you'll never improve. But if you learn and take away from what you have made in terms of mistakes or misjudgments or just, bad luck, you can take it on into the new business. A thing about cut and sew, and one thing that when I came across cut and sew and the brand, and how did you go about marketing it, because it's quite well known now within Dublin, the brand. How do you generate the awareness through the marketing?
I'm self-taught in everything, in business and in barbering. I'm technically self-taught.
Yeah.
YouTube and the 5 younger brothers, and only years later upskilling and spending a lot of money on education. I don't know really how. I think it's quite honest. So because it's me, and it's it was kind of, what's the word, publicised? No, I did a lot on social media so people could see the progress, and they're like, oh, there's Sean, who literally had one chair in the basement of a shop. It was a bit of a, excuse me, shithole maybe, or it wasn't the nicest space, and they were like, this is grubby and grungy. There wasn't even a wash basin. You had to come in with your hair like washed, or unfortunately we were going to spray it down and just get on with it.
Yeah.
Not proud of it, but the growth, then they seen like, oh, there's a wash basin now and shampoo, and oh, you have your own products, and oh my god, you've got a beautiful shop which is on Wellington Quay, which doesn't get much more central than looking over the Liffey.
Of course.
A lot of my friends, again, with who I kind of grew up with, because I did a bit of graffiti, and then the kind of crackbird crew who I knew, a lot of them were NCAD students, and they were doing design, and we would kind of trade haircuts for someone to do a business card for me or a logo. And
handy.
And yeah, very handy. And then I remember we got t-shirts made, and I got t-shirts made because I seen a guy in America who I watched on YouTube, and I was like, that looks cool. It was like something barbershop. So I was like, my friend Josh Gordon, who's a well-known photographer, videographer, artist now, he had a brand called Fucking Filthy, and he made his own t-shirts, and this was like 10 years ago. I was like, how do you even do that? And I don't know anything about design, or I didn't really understand Instagram as much anymore, and he was just really ahead of his time and very good on the computer and social media and interaction.
Yeah.
Friends, I would take a little bit from him. He was like, I'll get a guy to do this design for you. He charges 50 quid. Send the money on PayPal. Here's a t-shirt company. So some of my creative friends helped me. I was like, whoa. And then the t-shirts were a huge thing back then. We were printing 10 times more than we do now, because it wasn't called Mick's Barbershop.
Yeah.
And God love whoever Mick is, because I always reference Mick.
Mick gets the name call out every time, yeah.
I'm Mick. There's probably some lad in, I don't know, in Ballina going, there's nothing wrong with Mick's Barbershop. But the branding and the names and the logos, they were so powerful, because again, you only really, nobody, even though the Grafton Barbers, I take my hat off, is the most known in Ireland in every town, because it's a big franchise. It's just, it wouldn't be on the cool level, but it's a mental successful business, and it's admirable. I give my hats off to the lads. They've done an amazing, I think it's Huey and Connor, but I think we were like the first ones to do it as a brand. Like, it was like, oh, you can wear cut and sew. It doesn't say Seany B or Sean's, and it didn't say anything about barbershop. So maybe without me knowing it, it was creating a brand. And that's the one thing people ask me on the coaching sessions: how do you create a brand? And it was just the name cut. We were doing t-shirts, or we were meant to do t-shirts with a friend. He was going to sew them and make them there. He pulled out, so the cut and sew name started organically, and then it just, I think, had a ring to it. And then I don't know, it was just,
it was simple as well. Like, it's, sometimes the simplest things are the easiest things to remember. It rolls off the tongue. It's and as you said, it wasn't just about the barbering. It was just cut and sew, and that was it. And it was easy message to kind of portray against.
People would say, if you need them t-shirts, and I don't know, it was a bit of a movement in the sense, and only when I think about it, a couple of people were catching on, and then we went to Shop 3, and we were approached from a company to do a documentary. They were like, man, this is very exciting. Like, a year and a half ago, you were in the basement with no employees, and you've got 8 guys now, 2 shops, and you're in looking at shop 3, which was Blind Eye in George's Arcade. And then we were very fortunate enough to be flown to Ibiza by Ibiza Rocks Hotel. A friend of mine had seen on Instagram, said, man, we got to get you here.
Yeah.
The guys in Collective were like, we'll document this. And, you know, there wasn't many haircuts happening over at Ibiza.
Can't imagine so. No, I think it was a break away from the norm, I suppose, is what you'd call it. Relaxing and recouping, isn't that what they call it?
Yeah.
Going over there, and you know, we all know what Ibiza Rocks is about. It's about the music, it's about the party, and I suppose it would be remiss of us to not mention the importance of music in your life. Like, what is music to you?
I only watched the Club and Its Culture documentary, and music to me, I mean, I actually wouldn't have Cut and Sew, or it wouldn't be what it is today without me being a DJ or loving music and nightlife, because again, I wouldn't have had the cool designs from the people in Crackboard, because I wouldn't have DJ'd there. And then in the record shop in Temple Bar, like, I wouldn't have had that space if I didn't go in and buy records.
Yeah.
It's a kind of subculture, like the graffiti, the DJing, and it's so funny that now we're getting nothing but hotels opening up. And I'm fortunate that I'm 34, and my clubbing days are very few and far between. But it means everything to me, you know. I DJ'd in the Workman's for 10 years nearly, one Saturday a month, every Saturday, and you have the best buzzes, you know yourself, on a night out, in the smoking area, getting ready, having a few pints, your pre-pints with the smaller crew, you know, getting crazy, and then the DMCs afterwards. And you take over the world, and you meet these people, and like, I've had so many friends come from music and clients, and a big part of Cut and Sew is we play a lot of music. It's all music.
Yeah.
There's no TVs, there's no Light FM, there's no, I don't know, a TV guy, but there's, you know, it's no, there's no Joe Duffy on. It's all like SoundCloud mixes and boiler room DJ sets, and we do parties, so it's a social space. When we could host parties, we did about 2 a year.
Yeah.
We brands like Jemison, Dyson, Puma, Reebok, and you know, they would just give us tons of drink. We get some of the cooler DJs in town would come in, and everybody was invited. It wasn't like exclusive. The staff all invited their plus ones and twos, and then all of the customers came. We've had some crazy parties in the shops over.
I well believe it, Johnny. I well believe it. Cut and Sew is clearly not just a business to you. It's a way of life, I would say. From the people you recruit to the designs and the finishes of all the places that you have now, you know, the atmosphere that you get as a customer going in, you know, it's really much, it's kind of a social hub, I would say. You know, it's a real experience. Is this intentional? Is this something that you really drive to do with all your units?
Again, because I didn't have a business plan, and I don't come from an entrepreneur background, and I feel very fortunate and lucky, but I think my mum and dad instilled hard work in me. My mum has worked since she was about the same age as I started working, which is 13. I was a lounge boy when you could be a lounge boy at 13, and I sold papers and blah, blah, blah. The social hub thing, I think I just feel very fortunate that when I opened up one shop and that got busy and people trusted the people I employed, to be able to go do 2, and then for me to not be there and people come in and trust the brand. I try and hire people based on their personality, not their skill set. And I mean, it's a trade. You can be taught to cut hair. I think good manners is instilled in you, and you can have the most talent in the world, but you can be an asshole and not look someone in the eyes and give them a handshake. And everybody's welcome in Cut and Sew, no matter their sexual orientation, their gender, their whatever it may be, their ethnicity, and every age is welcome, whether you're 6 or 60. And I don't know, I'm just so happy that when people are coming in, they choose to spend their hard-earned money with us when there's 10 times more barbershops than when we opened.
Yeah.
And we need to grow, and it's I think I'm a pretty fair boss. I do become quite friendly with the staff, and I'm friends with them, which is detrimental at times, but I don't know, that's just what it is. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I do care about it. It's not franchised.
Yeah.
I could have cashed in and probably made a lot of money, but I'm still there 5 days a week cutting, and I'm in the shops, which everyone sees on Instagram every other day. So I do love it, and I'm very proud of it. And I don't have a partner, and I don't have kids. So I would love to have kids and get married and all that kind of jazz. But I don't know, it's my life and my babies, and it's now that opening a fourth shop, I don't have time at the minute to commit to a relationship. You know, when the 4 or 5 shops are done and running smooth, that's when I might meet Mrs. Cuddins.
Mrs. Cuddy.
Yeah, I might have some money then, Pierce.
Oh, that's it. You know, you might be more attractive then.
Oh, with these grey hairs and the haircuts, I'm looking a bit old.
I know the feeling. Diversification of the business is something that you have been very good at in terms of, you know, cut and sew, building on the brand. But one thing I notice is, you know, the level of education that you put back into the community as well. It's not just about making money, driving the business. It's also about bringing people along on the journey. But at the same time, from a business point of view, taking advantage of that, you know, and especially now when all the businesses are obviously closed, you have been very, very kind of proactive in terms of the coaching, in terms of the education on the online workshops. How did you come about doing it?
So with the education, I think it isn't for everyone, and in actual fact, I find it quite, and nobody believes me when I say this because I love yapping and I'm a chatterbox. I think I annoy more people when they come in because I like chatting to them.
Yeah.
But I find it quite uncomfortable doing public speaking. But to do public speaking and workshops and education, it was a tough leap for me. But naturally, I seen like, how am I going to continue to find good barbers? You can't advertise like I see so many shops in Dublin with a sticker or a poster and just saying barber wanted. You could get a raving lunatic coming in. So it's like a process when we do workshops. Not also am I helping pay the rent and the bills.
Yeah.
Way for me to kind of almost interview people on the day that they're in for a workshop. I can kind of they're about, see their manners, and again, it's based on personality. I can put work into their skill set and help them. And I would like to think I'm kind of like a big brother, uncle figure, whatever. And it's a good source of income now, and it's a way in which I think that when I get the rock stars of clients that come in, and there's loads and too many to name, it's a nice opportunity for me to be able to sell a course out based on how good the brand is.
Yeah.
Them to be like, have a platform, because they are the rock stars. It isn't the Seany show, it's the cut and sew show. I don't know, when you work in a shop, it's like, I think of it like a football team. Like, I'm a kind of player manager now, and I'm also like the fucking cleaner, because I still sweep and clean. My mind hasn't, it's actually gotten worse with, I'm just like, I'm so OCD, and I think that's a good thing to have, because I would be mortified if the shop wasn't up to the standard I would expect. And I think when you take your eye off that, it does go, and that's why I see 2 of the 3 shops I mentioned earlier on have gone, like, have totally shut down, and 1 is on its way out. And I'm like, whoa, like, you know, it's tiring. It you can't work at this pace forever. Yeah. So I have to give up some of the ownership to put a bit of, you know, get your managers, your Amy's, your Jakes, and your Elaine's, who are the 3 managers of the shops. And I haven't found one for the new shop yet, but I'll go to that shop for a year and I'll set the tone and then hire a manager. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. It's tough. It's tough work and it's hard to do, but the rewards will be worth it, Pierce. Yeah, you're putting the time in now. Looking towards the future and forgetting that COVID-19 thing that's going on at the moment, what does the future look like for you personally and Cut and Sew as an organisation? I think it's pretty stable at the minute. Like we're fortunate. We're hemorrhaging money, like thousands every month. I actually only did it today. I was like, why did I calculate? Yeah, I know that feeling. February, I was like, you know what, start the month right. It's a short month. It's all good. Very positive. Worked 10 hours today in the shops, floating around, painting, And I was like, let me just check here. We probably won't be out for another 4 months. For the 3 shops that are open, or, you know, that we, you know, officially have, we don't start the lease on the new until we're allowed to go back to work. So I was like, 3 shops, 4 months, that's a lot of money. Yeah. And the future is looking good because we are, as I said, very, I don't know, we really are about supporting local, and I pound people with it, and I kind of almost too much involved in the community. I live in the city. I know a lot of the business owners. I hire mainly people that I know, that when I know the guys, and like the owner of a pub or a cafe, their son gets a course done, if I can give them an opportunity, if their parents right, I'll do it. And I can see the impact it has, because they put back into other independent shops and people see it and they get behind it. And it's you could easily just go to a chain of barber shops that are franchised, or they're just called mixed barber shops. But people, I think, found the community spirit in it, and we do all these events which are free, but they cost us money to hire DJs and sound and equipment and drinks. And I don't know, I think people enjoy coming in because it's an appointment-based shop, so there is a rapport built up with them, knowing like, oh, hi Pierce, you're back in with Amy, or Sean, how are you doing? Oh, I seen you there the other night. Yeah, and the workman's, you good? You have a good night? And it's very, very easy to talk to everyone in the shop. They're big spaces. Usually barbershops are long, narrow. You sit in the bench and you don't speak to anyone.
Yeah.
But because it's premium based and they're located in really good parts of the city, they're quite buzzy. There's cool coffee shops beside all of the shops. We used to be able to give out beers, which is now illegal since COVID has hit last year. So that's a huge thing. But I mean, it was a nice touch to be able to give someone a beer on a Thursday or Friday evening. And I don't know, I think the future is bright. One more shop at least, whether it's on the north side or, you know, somewhere else. I think I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing, hire good people, try and, I suppose, be an area manager to the shops so we keep it up. Maybe learn how to drive because I'll need to get to all these shops. And I don't know, get the dream car, meet the dream lady, and have a lot of money and be comfortable and just no big head, no ego, and be a really respectable businessman and barber in my industry. I think would be a good place to see myself go. Yeah,
keep it just ticking over and just watch it grow and grow and grow, maybe from further afield. Looking back over your journey today, Johnny, it's what would you say is the biggest achievement you would have had if you could pick out maybe one moment, one key moment?
There's the one moment which, as I briefly spoke about, was the Cut and Sew documentary.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, not just the barber shop. I mean, that captured when there was nobody even close to us in the rear view mirror. You know, we had 3 shops, about 15 staff. The guys, in fairness to them, they were dog-wide collective. They're really after blowing up. Like they've done so many documentaries. Like I was DJing at Forbidden Fruit. It's the big crowd I played to, flying to Ibiza. Their thing was shown, the documentary was shown at the Sugar Bar, and I got my mum and auntie and her friend came to it, and there was so many. It was free now. I advertised it as it was a sub thing, but we all have to do these things.
Of course you do.
But to have the Sugar Club full with not only barbers, friends, I didn't celebrate my 30th, and to do that and to see it and to show a documentary with all Irish music in it, filmed by an all Irish team of documentary makers and editors, and then to capture that. Nobody in Irish history has made a documentary, and for my mum to see so many, like 150 people there and clapping, and then there was a Q&A afterwards with the District guys, District magazine. I sat beside my mum, you know, hand around her, a few too many sherries, but it was to me, everyone says that was like, nobody has done that, and nobody probably will do it because it's not really a done thing in barbering. Barbering is just you go get a haircut, you know, and you leave.
And I think that's what sets you apart, Johnny, in terms of yourself, maybe, and the way you approach the business. It's, you know, that's really the distinction between what you do and what everybody else does. And it's a real credit to you. And I suppose to pick out one moment and pick that moment out where you had your family around you and your friends, it really kind of plays into the person that you are. It's all about, you know, friends, family, and, you know, not having the big head, looking after and staying grounded, I suppose, is very important to you. If there was any enthusiastic people out there listening to us now, like you, when you were maybe going back when you were a little bit younger, not too much younger, would there be a bit of advice that you wish you had received back then that you would give to them people now?
I was given advice from people that have now got failed businesses, but back then they were doing well. They told me, don't grow, don't expand, don't risk it. You'll dilute yourself, you'll spread yourself too thin. And I think listen to your heart, you know, and listen to your heart and your head will follow, and stay true to yourself. If you try to copy what Cut and Sew did, it won't work, and it's, you know, it's a facade or a fake or a fugazi. And I think whatever you're about, be about it. So if you're into traditional hip-hop music and you're mad social and, I don't know, you don't want to have a TV or an Xbox in your shop, don't. Just follow what you like. I love music, I love chatting, I love the banter in the shops, and I'll never get a TV in there so people are just looking at the sport and whatever else. I like the social interaction between people, and it's I think just anyone enthusiastically listening to this, I think if they're already listening to your podcast and they're interested in the cut and sew story, well then they've probably got similar interests to myself and yourself, and seem very glass half full type of guys and want to spread a good message. I think just be about you, follow your heart, and have a good time with doing whatever it is that you're passionate about doing. Because if you don't love it, it will show, and it's not nice to be doing something you don't love, you know. So if you're lucky enough to do something you love, go and follow that.
Yeah, I think that's sound advice, because ultimately, if you don't, you'll kind of work yourself into a place where you're not happy, and you know it will show if you're doing something that isn't you. So staying true to yourself, like you have done, is very important. Seany, that's been brilliant. I appreciate you coming on the Big Nose podcast this week. It's been a phenomenal journey. People can check you out on Cut and Sew on Instagram, Facebook, as you've said already. You're across all social medias. There is a brilliant documentary that you have mentioned as well. I definitely recommend people check that out. It is a real insight into something that not a lot of people will get an insight to. And it's quite funny, and the guys and the girls who are on it are very frank and honest and open, and they don't pull any punches when they're talking, so which is really refreshing, I suppose, in this world we live in. It's great to have you on.
Thanks, Pierce. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a really nice chat, and all the credit to you. It was super, super easy to chat to you, and I hope everyone enjoys it.
Thanks, Johnny.